Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're doing a full breakdown of Ye-Shanguang, an S-rank honed edge attack agent whose kit is built around deliberate resource management, aka her Qingming sword pull stacks, and her anti-skill. Her main way of getting the most amount of damage comes from structured phases. Build sword force, enter enlightened mind, and use her combos properly to lay out massive amounts of damage, then reset and repeat. It'll take some time to get used to because she's the only character you can do stun damage multiplier outside of stun, which is her main gimmick. Once you understand that rhythm, the kit makes sense, so let's jump right in, shall we? For a high level of play, Ye-Shanguang needs to enter the enlightened mind as much as possible. Outside of her enhanced state, most of her actions exist to generate Qingming sword force stacks. Once she reaches the required amount, she can enter enlightened mind, a temporary state where her attacks change, her damage ramps up significantly, and several parts of her kit gains new effects. Almost every skill she has either contributes to generating that sword force stacks, spending inefficiently, or letting you control when that transition happens. Her rotation is rigid by design, and the kit rewards players who respect their structure. Her core passive improves her damage output and efficiency while in enlightened mind and refines how sword force is generated and spent. She gets free 30% crit rate and free 25% damage upon entering the battlefield. Her enlightened mind duration lasts for 16 seconds and the timer pauses when she goes off field, allowing for much more flexibility. She can enter this enlightened mind state via entry skill Illuminating Darkness, aka quick assisting off of Zhao, holding basic or using the first ultimate. When she enters this enlightened state, she deals honed edge damage, which allows you to deal a lot more damage than you usually would be able to otherwise. She also gets increased miasma purification rate of 50%, and more important thing to know about her kit is that her Ether Will Verdict, which is one that allows you to do the stun damage multiplier levels of damage outside of stun. This stun damage multiplier is usually around 150%, but stun damage multiplier bonuses do apply and will vulnerability caps at 110% or around 210% total. Last but not least, when Xiaowang's sword stacks exceeds the limit, she gains 1 stack of Bearer up to a total of 3 stacks, which gets used when leaving the enlightened mind state and gets converted into 3 sword stacks instantly. Her additional ability activates when the squad includes agents that can apply Ether Will effects. This is only possible with Zhao and Julcy at the time of writing the script. When triggered, Ye-Shanguang gains extra sword force, accelerating her rotation and letting her reach enlightened mind more frequently. This makes her team synergy very deliberate. She benefits significantly from allies that shorten her build-up phase, rather than those that simply add raw damage. In her normal state, Ye-Shanguang's basic attacks is a fast grounded sword combo that deals decent amount of damage. The individual's hits are not specially heavy, and that's intentional. These basics exist primarily to generate Qingming sword force. Each strike adds to her resource meter, and the full combo is designed to generate consistent sword force stacks. Holding the basic attack button when Qingming sword force is full does not extend the combo. Instead, it triggers Ye-Shanguang's transformation into enlightened mind. This means your basic attack input doubles as both resource gathering and also your main way of dealing damage. You also want to get 6 of her Qingming sword stacks and enter enlightened mind as much as possible. Her regular basic strings of 4 basics grants you 1 whole stack of Qingming sword force. Once enlightened mind is active, her basic attacks change completely from resource generation to dealing honed edge damage, and each strike consumes sword force to deal much higher honed edge damage. These enhanced basics are where a larger portion of our DPS actually comes from. To get the maximum amount of Ye-Shanguang's enlightened mind, I recommend you to do this combo. First activate enlightened mind, then perform her 4 basic strings. Then press EX special until she flies upward. Then press her basics again until she does her horizontal slice attack. Then hold EX special or ultimate button to do her exit animation and deal more damage. This combo is the most popular and does its job really effectively, and it allows maximum amount of damage when it is in enlightened mind state. If you spam them without regard for timing, you'll burn through sword force quickly and you'll be doing random basic attack and look like an idiot. And if you exit in this state, you won't even do the exiting damage. Ye-Shanguang's dodge is kinda interesting in this matter. If you press your regular EX special when you're about to be hit, she can dodge and do some damage, and in turn allows a bit more damage buildup. Though if you want consistent buildup, just focus on using your regular basic string or EX specials. In Enlightened Mind, her dash follow-ups become more aggressive and integrate cleanly into her enhanced combos. Her EX special is one of the most important pieces of her kit because it serves two very different purposes depending on her state. In her normal form, her EX special takes some time to cast and does forward advancing slash that deals some solid damage and generates a one whole stack of Jingming Sword Force stack. This is one of our fastest and most reliable tools for reaching full stacks, especially when entering the field mid-rotation. Using EX special early in a fight often determines how quickly you can access Enlightened Mind. In Enlightened Mind state, that same EX special changes its role. Instead of building resources, it consumes Sword Force to deliver a much stronger hit. This version is clearly intended as a finisher or burst extender, not a builder. Using it too early can prematurely end your damage window, while using it too late risks wasting remaining Sword Force stacks when the state expires. The skill forces you to think about timing rather than spamming. Ye-Shanguang's ultimate is actually kind of special in this case. When used in her normal state, the ultimate deals a large area of honed edged slash and immediately grants her full Jingming Sword Force stacks, pushing her directly into Enlightened Mind state. This lets you bypass the build-up phase entirely and force a burst window on demand, especially valuable during boss stun phases or when team buffs are active and you don't want to spend time stacking basics. When the ultimate is used while Ye-Shanguang is already in Enlightened Mind, it becomes a stronger follow-up strike that consumes the state once it finishes. This version exists to close out your burst phase decisively. You are not meant to chain Enlightened Mind indefinitely. The kit is structured so that you either enter with ultimate or exit with it, keeping her damage output cyclical rather than constant. Ye-Shanguang has a gimmick where if you use Zhao when her bar is full and you switch into her, she instantly activates Ether Will, allowing you to switch into Ye-Shanguang, which gives 3 stacks. And if you already have her 3 stacks and switch back into Ye-Shanguang, she will instantly go into her Enlightened Mind state and start doing your usual damage combo. But aside from this, her dash attacks isn't all that interesting. Ye-Shanguang's chain attack deals high AoE honed edge damage, though in my testing she covers less than per se Evelyn. And no, I'm totally not finding an excuse to glaze my beloved Evelyn. Let's just move back to topic. So her chain attack generates a large amount of Sword Force. If used near full stacks, it can immediately enable Enlightened Mind state once the chain ends. During stun windows, chaining into her is an efficient way to transition directly into her enhanced state without spending time on setup. Ye-Shanguang is a really strong attack agent, you might even say a tier 0 agent. She is undoubtedly the strongest in the game. You can play Ye-Shanguang with the same level of output, but she's actually quite tricky to play, but that complexity is rewarded by a lot of flexibility and tools at her disposal. Miyabi on the other hand, let's just not talk about her. Ye-Shanguang is really easy to play once you get the hang of her Enlightened Mind combo. It's actually very easy to play her, generate her Jingming stacks resources, go into her second form, use that combo to blast everything and either close out the animation or finish it off with another ultimate, which requires you to have 3000 decibels. One thing to note is that if you have dial-in and you use her gimmick to force activate Ye-Shanguang's ultimate, she will do her normal ultimate. But if you activate dial-in's ultimate when you're inside Ye-Shanguang's Enlightened Mind state, she would do the Sky Splitting ultimate instead, which is really neat and allows you to do consistent double ultimates. The best team with her right now is Ye-Shanguang plus Dial-In and Zhao, or you could run double attack team if you're kinda bored and want to try something else like Ye-Shanguang or Fi and Zhao. If you don't have Dial-In because you skipped or lost your 50-50, you could use Trigger as an alternative, or Jufufu, which are like the only viable stunners I can think of right now. For W engines, it's no surprise that her signature W engine is by far the best engine for her, known as the Cloud Cleave Radiance, which provides 20% damage ignore of target's physical resistance and provides a 20% damage increase and crit damage increase. When an Ether Veil is activated, it lasts for 40 seconds, so it's basically permanent at this point. Alternatively, the best W engine for her is by far the R5 Brimstone. Or if you only have her R1 Brimstone, that's going to be working fine as well. But her R5 Brimstone is going to be the best one out of all the options, except for signature W engine. I'd remind you that Brimstone only works when you're constantly hitting her with basic attacks, dash attacks, or dodge counter. So it's going to be weaving in perfectly with combat design of Ye-Shanguang. You're going to be pretty fine when it comes to keeping this vengeance stacked up all the time. Other options being the Steel Cushions, Severed Innocence, and the Heartstring Nocturne that you can slap on as a stat stick if you don't have any other W engine lying around. And oh, please do not use Cordis Germana on her. you can literally use any weapon except for that weapon, because it's going to be impossible to kill her with that weapon, because you're definitely going to be overcapping on crit rate, which is not really good if for some reason you don't have any other weapon besides the Corrodius Gemina for some unknown reason. I'd highly recommend getting the Starlight W engine as a free-to-play option. As for the drive disc sets, the obvious choice is the Whitewater Ballad as her 4-piece drive disc, as it's going to give you 10% physical damage and 20% crit rate increase, as well as 10% attack increase for 30 seconds. And you could use Powerful Electro as a 2-piece drive disc, or more likely if you have the Branch and Blaze Song or the Woodpecker Electro, which you can use both if you're running out of either crit rate or crit damage, so it's not going to be making that huge of a difference. So you can choose whatever 2-piece drive disc you want. So I'd highly recommend getting the drive disc that just has a better substats. As for the main stats, you should either go for crit damage percent or attack percent, but I highly recommend you do not go for crit rate percent, because there's already a lot of ways Ye-Shanguang will be benefiting from crit rate buffs, like getting crit rate rolls on your substats. So to avoid capping on your crit rate, I highly recommend getting crit damage percent and attack percent in slot 4, pen ratio, physical damage or another attack percent in slot 5, and lastly attack percent on your slot 6. As for the substats, I highly recommend getting crit damage percent and attack percent as much as possible in your substats rolls, then 10%, then flat attack, then crit rate percent, but be careful and avoid using too much crit rate substats to avoid overcapping. As for the skills, it's actually quite easy to explain. First get her core skill, then her ultimate, then go for the basic attack, then go for the skills, assist, and lastly dodge. And as for the recommended stats, I highly recommend going around 3000 attack, 100% crit rate, and 180% crit damage, as this should be your ideal Ye-Shanguang build that you will need to use to be using for optimal play in most of your fights. Lastly, the Mindscapes. As the true Void Hunter of New Eridos, she gains the highest amount of damage potential from her Mindscape. Her M1 provides 6 stacks of Qingming Sword Post as soon as entering the battlefield, and also provides 10% additional damage and 20% additional defense shred. Her M2 increases the bearer stacks up to 6 when it used to be at 3, and each point of Qingming Sword Post consumed grants 1 stack of Fulmination, and it can stack up to 9 times. Her EX special attack and her ultimate ignore 40% of target's defense. Her M4 provides 1000 decibels upon entering the field, and her vulnerability bonus provided by the Ether Will Verdict is increased up to a maximum of 200%. Lastly, her M6 provides 2 stacks of Lantern Wish when entering the battlefield, and when entering the Enlightened Mind state, she gets 1 stack of that Lantern Wish, which stacks up to 4 times, and it consumes the 3 stacks of Lantern Wish to convert her EX special Enlightened Mind into an ultimate, and the last hit of this ultimate deals 1500% of attack as additional physical damage, which is a cherry on top of this massive burst of damage. She's a transformation based honed edge DPS that's undoubtedly outstanding and performs remarkably well, and can perform excellently in any scenario, for now at least, until a new Void Hunter comes in to take her spot. By the way, a special thanks goes to Julcy for providing the thumbnail for this video. Really appreciate her help. Alright, I'll see you in the next one. Take care and bye bye.